The European Le Mans Series makes its annual trip to Portugal, and the final round is here at Estoril for 2016. Qualifying about to start, and three parts of it, with GT cars about to head out onto track for their 10 minutes of qualifying, and then we will see the LMP3 and LMP2 cars respectively. My name's Johnny Palmer, joined by John Hindhoff to my right, and looking forward to a session which hopefully will see quicker times than we saw during the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup part of qualifying, John, because the weather has improved. It might have even stopped raining, but the track is still very, very greasy.
Quick run round the paddock at lunchtime there, and yeah, I'd agree. The rain has stopped falling. It's still damp, but this is a circuit that's very abrasive. It's not cold. It's in the high teens Celsius, so 18, 19 degrees. So it isn't cold, and these tyres on these racing cars shift water very quickly. I would not be surprised to see a drying, if not a completely dry line, by the end of these sessions. But very quick fire in terms of the amount of time that you've got, Johnny. You've watched this all season. There's not a lot of time to mess about here. You've got to get it right now.
Quite right, yeah. There's no time to get used to the conditions. You'll have an outlap, and then, well, obviously the clock starts to tick as soon as the pit lane opens. So it's going to take you a good two and a bit minutes to get round to even approach a flying lap, and then it becomes maybe a 9 or 8 minute session. Obviously, if you get through past the checkered flag moments before it's shown, then you can squeeze an extra lap out of the session that way. Looking at the number 55 AF Corsa Ferrari here in a very smart British Racing green livery. All the GTE cars, by the way, running on Dunlop tyres. We have two entries from AF Corsa with the Ferrari 458 Italia, possibly making it here for a swan song event in the European Le Mans Series. Certainly there are a couple more, in fact 3 more Ferrari 458 Italias, one from AT Racing, one from Formula Racing, and one from JMW Motorsport. 2 Proton competition Porsches, the 991 spec of the 911 RSR, and there's also the Aston Martin, which has done well in the early part of this year. The number 99 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Andrew Howard, Darren Turner and Alex McDowell are the driving crew. So there's the 55 car, possibly the first in line, and we're getting a good view there of, I reckon that was Matt Griffin, although didn't get a long lingering look at him. There's the Aston Martin, poised and ready.
Nico Lapierre getting ready to go. A quick word with him at lunchtime. He was actually one of the drivers who's looking forward to these conditions. Thinks he can make a bit of a difference later on. There is the JMW Ferrari, the mighty 66. And first and second in the championship, remember, getting the invitations to Le Mans.
To open pit lane. Under 1 minute to open pit lane. Track has been declared wet. All cars must have rain lights on. Be advised, beyond track limits, it's very, very slippery.
Eduardo Freitas. There are the obvious grooved tyres for the wet weather conditions. You see some blanking on the front of that Beechdean Aston Martin as well. 66 Ferrari alongside it. There is that number 51 car that we were looking at earlier on.
Open pit lane.
Eduardo will do his normal countdown. Overcast, but at least the rain has stopped. Temperatures rising.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. Pit exit is green for the GT qualifying session.
So the car's out onto a wet track, as you can see, and this a little bit of a launch into the unknown. The car's had pre-practice yesterday, and then very early, bright and breezy this morning at 8 AM through till 9:30, where it was foggy here, so you struggle to even pick the track out in front of you. Also very damp as well, and so the car's out for this installation lap. 8 GTs. Oh, nice power sliding there from the 55 and indeed the AT Racing car, the 56.
And there's Matt Griffin in that car, by the way.
It is the Griff, okay. Marco Ciocci on board the other 51 AF Corsa Ferrari. 80 Racing going with Alessandro Pierguidi. Mikkel Mack will be in the number 60 Formula Racing Ferrari. Andrea Bertolini to qualify the 66 yellow, black and red Ferrari that we just caught a glimpse of. It's Wolf Hensler at the wheel of the 77 Porsche. Ben Barker in the 88 and Darren Turner taking qualifying duties in the number 99 Aston Martin.
It looks bad, it looks slippery, but this is a world of improvement to what it was half an hour, 40 minutes ago when the track was underwater in places, and particularly here, the braking area coming downhill. Note the marks on the grass on the right-hand side. That was one of the Formula One Renaults that was going around that completely lost it under braking. Was fortunate not to hit the back of the RS01, which was being driven by Jean Ragnotti, the former rallying ace, and 66 slowing down immediately. Andrea Bertolini just, I think, wanting his own bit of track as he goes through the hook and through onto the S's on the far side of the circuit. The guy's just tippy-toeing at the moment. I was going to say tippy-toeing at the moment. You can't really, because we're already down to 8 minutes. I thought the 20-minute and 15-minute sessions of the American series was tight enough. 99, Aston Martin, Darren Turner across the line. Going downhill quite steeply here. Has to brake very early indeed. Will just drift over to the left-hand side before turning in to the first corner. Through the little kink, now into the next right-hander. Just struggling for grip there. You can see the front wheels of the Aston just turning in and out. Already up to turn 4. The VIP corner. Now heading through the interior part of the circuit. It's a very compact layout, this. Clearly designed by someone who had a large amount of scale extra in a small bedroom. Now watch again as he turns the car in. He's looking for grip. Doesn't use the blue and white curbs on the exit. Half the time, nearly gone already.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We're flying through this session and it disappears very, very quickly. If you have a mistake as well, that ruins 2 minutes of the session. If you are going to build this track, by the way, in Scale Extra, you need lots of bridge supports as well, because the undulation around this place is quite phenomenal. It's a very rocky area, this part of Portugal. And this is a great illustration of how much this track goes up and down. An uphill chicane, which Alessandro Pierguidi, an unconventional line on the exit, but nevertheless, he's trying to find that grip on the exit of that twisty section through the left-hander.
Look at the front wheels, Johnny. Look at how he's having to find the grip there.
Yeah.
Just balancing the car, throttle, steering. This is very, very impressive indeed by Alessandro Pierguidi as he comes out the final corner. Proper four-wheel drift towards the curbs. And here's the first gambit, if you will, as he throws it in, and it's a 55-0. Hard on the brakes for turn 1. This could be last man across the line, gets pole position, and with the championship so tightly poised, an extra point might be very, very important indeed in the GT teams category. It's 93 points to JMW Motorsport against 73 to the Beechstein Aston Martin Racing Team. 61, the 56 of AT Racing in third position, and that's the what's called the series trophy for the teams. In the Drivers' Championship, remember, by the way, first and second in the teams do get the automatic invitation to Le Mans. Andrea Bertolini and
the manager car 88, the manager car 88. Please advise your driver to respect the Apex FT2. Please advise your driver to respect the Apex FT2.
Turn 2, which on some track maps is the slight kink between the first corner proper and then the next right-hander. There's a very slight left-hand kink, but I think Eduardo Freitas means that right-hander with the great rock face to driver's right. That's the plunge downhill towards the little kink. So that's Orella corner, isn't it? Or ear in English.
And then the hook.
And then the hook, which is this chicane uphill. Heading then for the S's. So you've got this right and then the left being the S's, and then into Parabolica Ayrton Senna. By the way, it's Alessandro Pierguidi who set the quickest time so far. Ooh, as Darren Turner has 2 attempts at turning the Aston left there, had to ease off the power very slightly. So Pierguidi's time, a 1:55.091, although Ben Barker is up at that time through the middle sector, and he's gone quicker than he's managed previously through sector 1 as well, as Alessandro Pierguidi's actually pitted. So is he deciding that that is pretty much all that he can do? The Italian Ben Barker goes quickest, a 1:54.754, as the number 88 Proton Competition Porsche goes over the line. Fresh, wet tyres for the 56 Ferrari then. It's Marco Ciocci third fastest, a 1:56.534, and then Andrea Bertolini fourth quickest in the number 66 car.
Oh, big slide for Ben Barker in the 88, but managed somehow to hold onto it. He's sitting right behind the JMW Ferrari, the 66 car, with Andrea Bertolini at the wheel of that. That's the yellow and black car. Black and silver is the 88. Ben Barker knows how to pedal a Porsche right out onto the outside of the circuit, trying to find some grip on turning. There's a little gaggle of cars here with just 3 minutes left, and I wonder if coming in to put a new set of wets on was the right thing to do, as Barker there was looking for some damp on the circuit. Here comes the Ferrari, back out of the pits again on those Dunlops.
So AT Racing, who managed to take pole position at Spa a month ago.
Be advised for track limits at the Apex 52.
We've also had a pole position for the number 99 Aston Martin at Paul Ricard. At Red Bull Ring, it was the turn of the 88 Proton Competition Porsche to take pole position, and then the 77 Porsche taking pole in Imola. 96 Aston Martin took pole in Silverstone. So we've not yet had a car excuse me, not yet had a car have 2 pole positions in this 2016 season. And interestingly, the championship leaders, who lead by 20 points coming to this final round in Estoril, yet to have their car start from the front row. So the 66 car, driven at the moment by Andrea Bertolini, a chance to take a first pole of the year, but he's got 3 cars to go quicker than at the moment. And this session showing signs of people maybe bailing out, feeling that the better conditions have maybe passed. Flashing of the lights though for the number 77 or 88 Porsche. I think that was Ben Barker, yes, trying to make sure that the 51 Ferrari had seen him.
I just wonder whether Pierguidi has banged a set of intermediates on here, because you are allowed intermediates here. Dunlop supply the GTEs with a medium and a medium plus slick, an intermediate and a wet. And I just wonder whether Pierguidi thinks that there might be something in having the intermediate. Oh, another huge slide through the final corner. Outstanding stuff from Pierguidi. Let's see how his time. Now he starts his final lap with a minute to go, so this is it for him if he's going to improve from second position. Down to turn 1. Turns in. He's got Matt Griffin in his wheel tracks at the moment. That looks okay. He's looking for a 24-second first lap. Just watch this coming out the final corner here, Johnny. Look at that. He's crossed up, but beautifully under control. I don't think that affected his exit speed too much out of there. Check his intermediate here as he's coming through to the end of the first sector. Needs to be somewhere near 25 seconds, and he was.
But Ben Barker was quicker again, a 23.8 through the 0.6, in fact, no, 0.8 was right first time, through the first sector. 55 is certainly not hanging about through the second sector as well. So Ben Barker already with pole position within his grasp.
Matt Griffin is closing on him, so Griffin must be quicker.
OK, that's fair enough logic to me. Griffin,
very wide.
as the checkered flag is waved now.
Next car to pass the line will take the checkered flag.
Well, Griffin put in the car's best lap last time around, a 1:55.975. So 55 is currently fourth fastest.
First car to take the checkered flag. 99 was the first car to see the checkered flag.
That's where you really need to nail that. And touring car, the inside curb through the hook. That's where you're trying to get grip there, Johnny. It's so hard.
He He kept some of the outside tyres on the track
No,
there,
that's
I
fine.
think.
I think that was okay.
It wasn't all 4 off, although parts of all 4 tyres were off the track for a moment. The checkered flag, as you can see, is being waved, and he's again four-wheel drifting Alessandro Pierguidi through the parabolic at Ayrton Senna. This is the final corner then, which goes on and on and on. Is he going to take curb on the exit? Yes, he is. And Matt Griffin again catching.
Cars 88 and 88 and 56, 56 was immediately to scrutineering. All the other cars inside their tire, inside their garage, resting on their tires under parc fermé regulations.
Barker, by the way,
Cars
came through.
88 and 56 must be pushed immediately to scrutineering.
Barker came through, did not improve. Alessandro Pierguidi came through and didn't improve. And despite a hard-charging Matt Griffin right behind Alessandro, we didn't see improvement there either from the Irishman, although his best time came a lap prior to that with a 1:55.975. So it is pole position for the 88 Porsche, and they become the first crew to take a second pole of the year after topping the times at Red Bull Ring in Austria. The 88 Porsche doing the business there for round 3. And for the final round, it is the 88 crew, courtesy of Ben Barker, that take pole position for this final round of the championship. A 1:54.75 for the time, and quicker by 0.337 of a second than Alessandro Pierguidi. So Porsche from a whole load of Ferraris, second, third, fourth, fifth and 6th fastest for the Italian mark, ahead of the other Porsche of Wolf Hensler, who is no slouch, but obviously struggled to get around here anywhere close to Ben Barker's time. Wolf's best effort was a 1:57.1, which was 2.3 seconds slower than the Brit. And Darren Turner, who looked like he got a bit of a handful of an Aston Martin there through that session, 8th quickest.
Yeah, that was basically who could wring the most out of the tyres early on, I think. I'm pretty certain now that Pierguidi did try a different Dunlop tyre that didn't look quite as aggressive on the shoulder. I think he might have gone for the Inters. There is Darren Turner, DT, jumping out of the 99 Aston, the P16 Aston Martin racing car.
That car has previously sat on pole position in Paul Ricard in the south of France, but Darren will head straight for the debrief, and the team, I'm sure, will be eager to chase a little bit of wet setup. Hopefully it won't be required for tomorrow, but the problem is it's a 4-hour race and it spans what is already pretty changeable conditions, so we may have a dry start, but it will head into wet quite possibly. There's confirmation then of the 8 cars that qualified, and the quickest, a 1:55.754 for the number 88 Proton competition car driven by Ben Barker. 0.3 of a second back to Alessandro Pierguidi in the AT Racing Ferrari. 2 AF Corsa Ferraris will start on the second row, 51 from 55, and they're only separated by 0.2 of a second. That was Marco Ciocci and Matt Griffin putting in the times. J&W Motorsport, championship leaders, into the final round. Andrea Bertolini, good enough for 5th position ahead of Mikkel Mack for Formula Racing, Wolf Hensler and Darren Turner. But there is Ben Barker stepping out, very, very happy indeed with his 10 minutes of hard work.
When was the last time Aston Martin with Darren Turner behind the wheel with 2.4 seconds off a qualifying pace?
Yes. Doesn't bode particularly well for the race, but then again, we're comparing single lap pace with the full race. Here is a chance to catch up with Ben Barker, speaking now to Charlie George.
Well, Ben, congratulations, pole there for the Porsche. It looks super greasy out there.
Yeah, it's really slippery. We had troubles in practice where the track was wet and we all thought it was going to dry out, but it just takes so long to dry. And lucky we had that little bit of a window for practice to know that. And yeah, fantastic for Proton and my first round with them, and my first pole this season as well from all the racing that I've done. So it's fantastic for everyone, and yeah, good start for tomorrow. Hopefully we can finish it off up the front.
Thank you, well done.
Thank you, cheers.
So that's one part of the grid decided. We have 2 more to come, of course, so don't go anywhere. An opportunity, though, to look back on the highlights of this 10 minutes of qualifying, which flew by as we expected it to. Ben Barker certainly working very hard there, asking the car to turn in at certain points, and it refused. So several attempts at certainly turns 2 and 3, and not your conventional line, it's fair to say. This is not a dry line.
No, and look at how far off they are on drivers right here, trying to get a little bit of grip even on the AstroTurf. to get the car rotated into that middle part of turn 4, VIP corner. You'd expect the Porsche in the damp to do well. Engine right out over the back axle, plenty of forward grip, mechanical grip at places like the uphill chicane at the hook.
Yes.
At 7, at 8 and 9 rather, before the S's. Those are the places where you want that mechanical grip. Now I'm quite excited about the next part of this because I see GT cars a lot, GT-LM cars, GTE cars as they are here. I see P2 cars quite a lot. What I don't get to see very often is the new prototype, the baby prototype category, the LMP3 cars.
Yes, 18 of these Ligier JSP3s here. We have had a little bit of variety through the year in terms of chassis, but no doubt the dominant force has been Ligier. And there are chassis from people like Ades and Norma, not too far away, maybe joining the European Le Mans Series ranks in 2017. But nevertheless, it's not a spec series, but it might as well be here in Estoril, which will guarantee close racing. And of course, when we come to the race, these cars do have to run to a minimum pit stop time as well, at least for 2 of your stops. And then your final stop of the race can be as quick as you like. But that really does add another sense of variety to the race, and we can often find that a team that we've totally discounted going into the final stint all of a sudden comes to the fore. I mentioned United Autosports because they turn the thing on its head and tend to do the shorter pit stop, the shortest of the 3, at the end of the race, so they're way down before that final stop, and then all of a sudden they re-emerge in the top 2 or 3, and you think, wow, where have people like Alex Brundle and Mike Gwash and Christian England come from? But they've done everything to the letter of the law. It's just that they go against the grain.
And they've won the championship using those tactics this year.
Exactly right.
Congratulations to them. Had the United Autosport team in the same hotel as me down on the seafront at Monte Estoril, and had a long chat with Alex. In fact, Alex was on the show on Wednesday night, which we presented live from down here on the Atlantic coast, and also with Richard Dean, the man behind the United Autosport team. Very excited about the potential of an LMP2 invitation to Le Mans 2017. Told me he didn't realise he had so many friends in the business until he got the automatic invitation. They don't have a P2 car at the moment. They haven't finalised what they're doing for next year. Obviously the 2 LMP2, the LMP3 cars that they've got are very competitive indeed. And again, you can see the blanking on the nose there of that Ligier, requiring quite as much brake cooling in these conditions with the dampness. That is a championship that they have wrapped up very well indeed.
Yes, they are 30 points ahead, which is clearly an unassailable lead with only a possible 26 on offer here in Portugal. So Alex Brundle, Christian England and Mike Gwash grabbing the championship in Belgium. Eric Trouillet and Paul Petit are on 78 points and have a little bit of a fight on their hands to fend off people like David Hallyday and Dino Lunardi, who are here as part of the Duquesne engineering squad. David Drew hasn't been with Dino and David through the whole season, so he trails his co-drivers by 12 points. And Enzo Gibert likewise regularly races with Eric Trouillet and Paul Petit, but has had 1 round away.
Wayne Boyd then in the car for the number 3 United Autosports team. Be nice for them. They haven't had a lot of luck this year. Spoke with Wayne and Matt Bell.
Seconds to open pit lane, under 30 seconds to open pit lane.
And I've suggested to them that they might have broken a mirror while standing under a ladder by hitting it with a black cat at one stage this season, and I think they would like a win this weekend to go out on a high. Here's the countdown from Eduardo.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is open. Qualifying session for LMP3 cars has started.
Yes, haven't had a win yet, strangely enough.
All cars must have rain lights on. Please advise your drivers that track verges are extremely slippery.
It is strange how bad luck within motorsport can often hit just one car in a team, and then the rest. I mean, not obviously putting Brundle, England, and Gouache's victory down to luck entirely, but you need a little bit of luck to get there with a round to spare. And strangely, the 3 car has really been hit with issues and incidents, and the pole position they took in Imola only resulted in a 7th place finish. Their best so far has been a 2nd, though, so as you say, it would be great to go out with a win here in Estoril. There's the number 9 car, which has been there or thereabouts all year. Eric Trouillet and Paul Petit are 2nd in the championship, and Enzo Gibert, who's back with the team for this round, trails his fellow co-drivers by 12 points.
See, I'm old enough to remember Group C2 cars, and this is what these little baby prototypes put me in mind of, Johnny. Back in the glorious days of Group C, the minor class was C2, and they just looked like prototypes that had been shrunk slightly in the wash, and the only thing that slightly gave them away was the slight disparity in the size of the greenhouse area, the cockpit area, to the rest of the car, and that's why this puts me so much in mind of that, because the windscreens look slightly too big for the cars, almost look like they come from an earlier age nowadays. We're used to seeing the cockpit area of prototypes being almost shrink wrapped around their drivers, but the proportions of these cars I think are superb, and a very, very cost-effective way to go motor racing, winding the brake bias back there on board the 19 Decane engineering car. That's interesting. I'm taking some off the front.
All powered, by the way, by the Nissan VK50 VE engines. 5-litre V8 in the back of these cars, though, so they're larger engines than the LMP2s, but slightly less aero on them.
Very, very cost-effective way to go racing. Much cheaper than to buy the car and to run the car than, say, even an LMP3 car. And there is the number 2 Champions car. I would say that windscreen wiper wasn't working correctly. Not an expert in that field, I'll be honest, but I don't think that was doing very much there. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go, struggling up to straight ahead.
Yeah. Well, Alex Brundle will be happy if it stays in position, but it's not really doing a very good job of clearing the screen. It was interesting how he well and truly backed off towards the end of the lap and then really gave it some with the right foot through Parabolica, Ayrton Senna. And this is, no doubt about it, a flying lap now from the young Brit, already champions, but keen to go out at the end of their championship-winning career with another victory. We're already down into within the last 7 minutes now.
Alex coming off a splendid run in Japan in an LMP2 car in the World Endurance Championship, and this is exactly what this championship is about, to allow teams and drivers and engineering staff as well as sponsors to get their feet wet, no pun intended, nicely driven Alex, in this sort of racing, to see if it works for them, and then to be able to go and ply their trade. And Alex was driving with the G-Drive, part of the winning G-Drive team, did a brilliant double stint in the middle of the race, and I would think might be feeling just a little bit frustrated that he wasn't one of the rookie drivers as the number 4 has gone around. That's the York Racing Ligier. Eric
Maurice at the wheel of that, and we have 2 cars in that livery for Oak Racing, the 4 and the 24. Jacques and Pierre Niclet of Ligier are in the number 24, as they often are.
Let's go back to Alex. I think he's possibly slightly frustrated he didn't get a chance for the rookie test in a P1 car at the end of the season, having won this and ACO and FIA Championship. The perfect opportunity. Now, that's not to say that he might not get invited to have a go in one of those cars on the Sunday after Bahrain, and that's a little bit too deep. Maybe, maybe not, you know.
Got away with that. Dino Lenardi through the Parabolica interior and up to the ear corner. Orella.
Look at how much water's coming out from the honking big holes in the top of the wheel arches there. It's still damp out there in places, Johnny.
Down the dip, heading for Gancho, which is the uphill chicane. sun is out, glinting off the top of that car, so hopefully that will burn up a little bit more moisture. Track temperature 22 degrees now. That was a tighter exit, interestingly, unlike the Alessandro Pierguidi line where he went up and high and wide on the exit of the chicane.
But did you see how much that compromised the exit of that prototype there, and how long he was on opposite lock, drifting it round? I'm not sure that was the right choice there, but what it shows to me is there's a heck of a lot more grip than there was 10 minutes ago.
Lunardi's set to improve though, not necessarily to go quickest, but he should do a bit better than a 151. No, he doesn't. He's slow through that final sector, which did include the exit out of the chicane, in fairness. So 151.057 comes close, actually very close to his best effort, which was a 0.45. So that's 12 thousandths of a second separating that time from his best.
This is a half decent run as well for the Panis Barthez competition car in that sort of Leighton House bluey green colour as they go across. They used to call it Miami Blue, didn't they, for Leighton House?
It is very tricky though when you get the P2 and the P3 cars alongside each other to tell the difference. It's just the size, but it's near identical paint schemes for both of their cars.
It's a good-looking car, though, isn't it?
The Panis Barthez competition car with well, they took double pole earlier on in the year in both P3 and in P2, and that was at Red Bull Ring.
It's the two United Autosports cars, 2 and 3 in positions 1 and 2 at the moment, ahead of Dino Lunardi in the Duquesne Engineering 19.
Brundle well and truly backed off the pace though, and one of the Graf Racing cars has spun at the second corner, no, turn 4 rather. Yeah, turn 4, and it's continued, so there were briefly yellow flags out there, and that might have been the reason why Brundle and Wade Boyd had relatively slow laps.
I'm loving seeing prototypes getting sideways as much as this. It's not terribly efficient or quick. A lot of wheel spin through the apex of the uphill chicane there at Ganshaw, turn number 9. This is not a bad run though for the 20 car.
My first chance to see Antonin Borger, who is welcome to the team alongside Maxime Pielard and Eric Clement. And what can Borger do as he heads across the line? The Swiss driver in number 20. Fourth place with a 151.112 for Borger. So we have
3/4 of a second off though. Another spinner out on the circuit.
Same car. Eric Maurice again in the Oak Racing machine. So it's United Autosports from United Autosports, and then the two Duquesne Engineering cars, 19 from 20. And this is the 19 car of Dino Lunardi.
You've just got to rock ape this at the moment, because driving finesse is not what is getting the time out of the car. They're really having to get the car to rotate on the brakes and really taking a lot of chances here with grip that is changing all the time. Again, a little lock up there just going down the hill. This was a moment or two ago.
That's one of the Graf cars, either the 9 or the 10.
It's blue mirrors, if that helps.
Not really. I know some of the mirrors, not all of them, I'll admit. There's the, as we affectionately call it, the Norwich City car, which is the Inter-Europol competition machine.
Europol sounds like somebody you don't want knocking on your doors in the early hours of the morning, doesn't it?
That's Jakub Śmikowski driving the number 13 car, and this is an off-track moment for Giorgio Sergiotto at the wheel of the Viorba Corsa car.
He's done well to get that out of there, bit of rally crossing.
Absolutely. Always run the risk there of getting the rear wheels embedded in the gravel. Quick look at Charlotte there, the press officer for United Autosports, and she should be pleased with how these two cars are going. 2 from 3 at the moment, and Alex Brundle showing that the championship, nabbing the championship at Spa, has done nothing to ease his effort off a little bit. He's still pushing incredibly hard to get one more win.
Is that the team car behind them?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So we have red mirrors for the number 2 and white mirrors for the number 3. Jot that down. There's the Panis Barthez Competition car, driven by Simon Gachet. And Gachet
one more lap
is
for them, I think.
Quicker than anybody else through Sector 1. He's done a 53.5 through Sector 2. So this will, I'm sure...
No, he lost it all in the final sector. And the checkered flag came out after him. He's the last person to get one more lap and he's going to have to make it count here.
Enzo Potilicchio just fell short and receives the checkered flag for Graf Racing. Potilicchio, and the other Graf Racing car going for a spin this time as well. So who do we put in the number 9 car? Enzo Gibert at the wheel of that. So
Brundle takes the checkered flag, will not improve, neither does Wayne Boyd, so the 2 and 3 times are going to stand.
Yeah, they're cemented in place. Probably first and second, but there are still cars circulating and the potential for them to go a little quicker. Morton Dons has just gone quicker than that car's managed in this session. The 15 machine up to 7th place. Here's the Ultimate Motorsport, the Ultimate entered car rather. Jean-Baptiste Lahaye, Francois Ray and Mathieu Lahaye.
Good shot. Champions on pole position here.
At least so far. But Dino Lunardi, yes, not really showing anything special on this lap, nor Antonin Borger. They are 3rd and 4th fastest as we stand. Simon Gachet 5th quickest ahead of Giorgio Sernagiotto, recently heading off track, of course, through the gravel. Over the line goes Lunardi and doesn't improve, although he wasn't very far away. And in fact, the team car from Duquesne right behind. So we've got the yellow kind of walrus tusks, if you like.
Very good.
And then the orange for the 20 behind it.
Yeah,
always great.
Accoutrements are replicated throughout the side of the car and on the back of the car as well. That's nice. Thank you, guys.
Simon Gachet is the only car not yet to receive the checkered flag for Panis Barthez Competition.
He's not going to trouble the top though, is he?
He isn't. Not certainly by the sector times for this lap. So it's another pole position for United Autosports and handshakes all round.
I'm quite surprised, Johnny, that we didn't see improvements at the end there, because I thought that would have been it, conditions improving. I wonder if they're improving to the point where a different type of tyre, you're right on the cusp of it. So you've taken the best out of the treaded tyre, but you're not quite there in terms of putting a slick on.
Incredibly, that is the first pole position of the year for the number 2 car.
Yes,
and
correct.
I had memory of United Autosport starting a race from pole, but that was the 3 of Mark Patterson, Matt Bell and Wayne Boyd at Imola. So despite that car being utterly dominant in races this year, taking wins at Silverstone, Imola and in Red Bull Ring, a 3rd place at Ricard and a 2nd place in Spa, but it's never yet started a race from pole position. Well, that's been put right. And can they get a 4th win of the season tomorrow? Well, job number 1 already complete, and we will hear from Alex Brundle very shortly, I'm sure. He recently shorn, shall we say, had his head shaved as part of the
thank goodness
braving the
it's pulled
shave.
back a little bit.
Yes, it has, slowly. There's the 20 car having a moment.
That was after the checkered flag.
It was,
Johnny.
worryingly, yeah. So have another look at it.
Boots the throttle. I've got it. No, I don't.
I don't get it. No. And there's Borger pirouetting on a 6pence, sensibly backing it away from the racing line, just in case anyone was heading through the chicane behind him. Brundle then stepping out. Very smart helmet design there for Alex.
Yes. The Yorkshire company.
Finally, he says, finally. And those are the photographs you will see on the ELMS website very, very shortly. So Charlie George, I'm sure, is just waiting off camera. There was certainly an incident-packed session for Eric Maurice with 2 spins in the number 4 car, but he's got it back in the same shape that it started the session.
And we're just up to the top left of that helicopter shot, or that drone shot there.
Very cool, yes. So an indication of just how many trailers are here for this weekend. And celebrations will have already started in the back of the United Autosports truck, because Alex Brundle has got the number 2 car finally onto pole position.
Well, Alex, you were crowned already champions of the LMP3 for 2016. Now you've got your first pole position of the year. Are we going for the win this weekend?
Always. Yeah, I'd love to be able to say we absolutely knew how that was going to go, but we completely didn't, because we didn't really run in those conditions all weekend. We had no idea that it was going to be a 1-lap wonder on the tyre, so you just get out on the racetrack and enlarge it. But yeah, went well. Great car again from the guys, and I'm just delighted for the team. It's been such a great year.
Thank you. Well done, and enjoy the race.
Cheers.
Certainly a lot better when you're at the front of 18 LMP3 cars, or 17 in their case, but they'll be behind the P2s, and it's always a very, very busy start. It's the nature of LMP3 being the middle class, if you like. You start right in the middle of the entry, and that's potentially where it could kick off, especially with such a pinch point down at turn 1. 150.355, then good enough for pole, and just 0.186 of a second separates the two United Autosports cars, John.
And just 0.1 between the two Decade Engineering cars, but half a second away from the front row. And then another half a second back to the third row, with again just a couple of tenths or tenth and a half between them. That's really interesting how those cars have, in the first 3 rows, have been tight together in terms of their pace, but about half a second away from the row in front of them as they'll line up.
Yeah, United and Duquesne really did pair off to make the front row the Anglo-American team, and Duquesne Engineering from France locking out the second row. Simon Gachet, good job from him for Paris Barthes Competition to bag 5th position, and Giorgio Cernagiotto completing the top 6 in qualifying. And now we turn our attention from the baby prototypes to the big boys, the LMP2s.
And qualifying is always important, but this is the last race of the season. So there's a point here, which, it's a point. What difference does it make? Well, it could make a big difference here, depending on whether the 46 Tyria by TDS, the championship leading team, or G-Drive, the 38 team, in second position get it. If either of those two get it, it could make a big difference to their strategy in the race tomorrow, because of how the points differentials work between first, second, third and fourth. You'd say that Tyria by TDS have got the advantage going into the final race of the year, because clearly they have points-wise, 92 to 78. But I just think that they would prefer to get that point in the bag, because it gives them effectively another place that they can drop down the grid, down the finishing order. They would win on countback as well in terms of racing if it ended up as a tie. G-Drive want pole and a win tomorrow to put some pressure on that Tyria by TDS racing squad.
Yeah, the season started so well for G-Drive Racing in, I think they'll be the first to admit, a relatively old car now. Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com was good enough to show me the stats yesterday of the number 38 car, which has been in the Jota White. It's now, of course, in the G-Drive Orange, but it is the same chassis, and the car's been going since 2011. It's had an awful lot of drivers, although Simon Dolan has been the constant from the start of that car being run in 2011 through to now. He's taken part in every race that it's been in, and here is the number 38 car. Of course, he won't be able to run at Gibson next year as part of the new LMP2 regs. So this is the final time that we will see that open cockpit car, and quite possibly any type of open cockpit car.
No open cockpit cars next year.
In the ELMS.
Not in the... yes.
There is a slight chance of it, I suppose, under the grandfathering part of the regulations.
Yes, that's why I stopped myself. I was thinking
17 is that crossover period, isn't it? And then 18 will be well and truly into the new rules.
Don't think they'll be competitive with the new cars. The new cars, 100 horsepower more advanced aerodynamics, very much more a baby LMP1 car, and I'm not sure that. And also, I don't think the BOP will allow them to be competitive, even if they were. It wouldn't make any sense, would it? Not really much point in attempting it in an open top car at all.
So, although Tinknell was a real qualifying specialist last year, and it's Guido van der Kater, by the way, to do qualifying for this race, that 38 car yet to sit on pole for 2016. The year started with a quickest lap for Tyria by TDS Racing. They also repeated that feat at Le Castellet. We've had a couple of pole positions for the 21 car, and they were winners last time out, remember, at Spa, with Ben Hanley, Henrik Hedman and Nicolas Lapierre. And then we've also had a pole position for Panis Barthes Competition. That was the time at Red Bull Ring where they started from the front for both P2 and the P3 class. So don't count those guys out in the, again, Leighton House blue.
Don't forget, very late choice of tyres. They look like Inters to me, going on the 38.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, they are.
Well, that will either work brilliantly or it won't work at all.
Well, look how late they put them on the car, Johnny, and that is because they want the maximum amount of heat in those tyres to get out on the track to give the driver the best opportunity of getting some grip early on. They're going to wait. They're not even putting that car on the ground. Okay, it's leaching a little bit of temperature out, but as soon as it goes down, of course, that wet road, a little bit of a spin of the wheels, it's going to be a very, very tough first lap or two. Look at the orange dial in the middle of the screen there, and the green one underneath it. That's two different areas of traction control. Slip and wheel spin. So one is slip is sideways action, and wheel spin obviously is about how much spin you get out the wheels.
Matthias Besch already off the track, exploring the limits and a bit more, but that's okay, because when he goes for a flyer, then he'll know exactly where the line is, theoretically. And here is the 38 car, driven by Guido van der Garde. So Harry Tincknell and Simon Dolan, mere spectators in this session.
This first lap's going to be really tricky because he's got to go quick enough to put more heat into the tyres,
yes,
without falling off the track. This is really, really interesting.
Which goes against anything that us mere mortals would think.
Oh yes.
Guido van der Garde and Harry Tincknell and Simon Dolan, absolute racing drivers, and this is what they're paid to do.
Now,
so
notice he hasn't got either of the TC turned all the way up.
yes,
It's 4 out of 8 and 3 out of 8. So even in these difficult conditions, he's backing himself, his right foot, and what he can feel in terms of grip through the steering wheel and from his backside, he's backing himself against the electronics.
weaving from left to right on that short straight between the first Parabolica and Aurelia corner to get more heat or retain the heat in the intermediates. And there'll be a moment of truth, really, where whether it's the right decision or not will become very obvious. They will have time to come in and change back to wets, I suppose.
I think they'll leave him out there. Don't expect to see that car go straight to the top of the times here, Johnny. You were talking about them perhaps, you know, sometimes using some clever tactics. We've seen it before where Simon's jumped into the car twice to make it work during these longer races. Hasn't necessarily done his full time behind the wheel as the non-pro driver. Spin for the 32 there, S&P Racing. I think that they'll now say to Guido, just get out there and it will get better. The track is going to come to you. Don't try and nail it on the first 2 laps. The track will come to you. Keep the heat and the pressure in the tyres.
Very similar moment to Antonin Borger's incident on the slowing down lap in the previous session. That was Vitaly Petrov. 2 cars going side by side. I'm quite pleased we're looking at the Greaves car though, because I'm hoping they got through. Just listen for a clatter behind, but 2 abreast maybe not too smart in these conditions. Let's have a look at the Greaves car exiting.
I like
the corner.
that exit there. I know it doesn't look like it is the right one, but I think that's far better in the early laps to do that than try and pinch the corner and potentially lose the back end and spin up the rear tyres.
The tail was wagging a little bit for Julien Canal, but it was all under control, I think. And exit is good as well. We still have the EDEX Sport car all in one piece behind, by the way, so that's good. Dimitri Engelbert driving the 28 machine. And good to see those guys back again for another race.
Sunshine.
Absolutely. What is that again? I need to be reminded. We had beautiful sunshine on Wednesday and Thursday. But
doesn't that make the choice of Guido van der Garde look a bit smarter?
quite possibly, yes. So they've been keeping an eagle eye on the radar, you would think. And although Guido van der Garde hasn't done anything special so far, he will be nearing the end of this lap, and he's certainly up through the first 2 sectors. So this will be a respectable lap time, a banker if you like. And once he's got that under his belt, he can then afford to push a bit more. So out onto this straight, which immediately starts to descend. Onboard camera doesn't really show you that. We're plunging downhill, and he goes to 5th fastest with a 149.433. Immediately to the middle of the track. By the way, it's Dimitri Engelbert for EDEX Sport out front, a 146.397 ahead of Paul-Luc Chatin for Panis Barthez, and Leo Rissell 3rd fastest, as Olivier Pla now goes 4th fastest in the bright green Krone Racing Ligier.
No Tracy Krone this weekend. Business keeping him away from the track. And that car as well changed tyres late on. It's back on the Dunlops, isn't it?
Off track again for Matthias Besch. So he is exploring all sorts of bits of the circuit here. Hopefully grip will be improving. Yeah, on that slight rise, an abrasive track, yes, but it does seem to drain very quickly.
Sorry, it's the 41 Greaves car that's back on to Dunlop's this weekend. My apologies, got my notes wrong there. Can't read my own writing.
Well, Krone have changed tyres though. They've been on Michelin's for much of the year and they head to Dunlop's.
All right, sorry, no, I was right the first time then. In that case, yeah, it is 40, not 41, where they've changed over.
So
My
on the
apologies.
French rubber, we still have Panis Barthès Competition, the 23 car, Edex Sports Ligier, which tops the times at the moment on Michelin's, and the Pegasus Racing Morgan, which is another open top car driven by Leo Roussel, as Paul-Luc Chatin now goes quickest in the number 23 Panis Barthès Competition car. So it's actually the 3 Michelin shod cars that are in the top 3 right now. Paul-Luc Chatin from Dimitri Engelbert from Leo Roussel.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? There is the 23 heading around the circuit at the moment, the Panis Barthès competition car. You're right about how similar that looks to its LMP3 cousin. Just that concave nose that gives away really on first glance. There's the 41 car in the pit lane and out again with 3.5 minutes to go. That is the Greaves Motorsport car. Now, what have they gone on to? I would like to have seen what they went on to there, because that looked like they'd come off into. Surely they've not gone on to slicks.
Nico Lapierre on a potentially very quick lap, 21.5 through the first sector. That's quicker than anyone's managed so far. A real squirm as he heads out of Arela corner and towards Gancho, turns 9 and 10, and the front left leaves the ground there under braking. So stiff the suspension and so undulating this circuit. Again, Lapierre struggling to lay the power down from this Ligier.
That's the
from this Orica, I should say, the Orica 05.
21 car, the Dragon Speed car with the Evel Knievel leathers motif. That's what I always think of that. That goes back to the old rocket cycle days and trying to jump the canyon.
So purple through sector 1, purple through sector 2. What can Nicolas Lapierre finish his lap with? He goes almost quickest. He goes second, yeah, so not quite quicker than Paul-Luc Chatin. How close did he get? Within 0.2 of a second, as now Dimitri Engelbert goes through, and there's a further improvement from Paul-Luc Chatin as well. So 1:45.455 extends the gap back to Lapierre to half a second, and a further 0.4 back to erstwhile pole sitter Dimitri Engelbert in the Edex Sport car. A couple of minutes to go, and is the track continuing to dry? And are therefore we going to get quicker times in the remaining portion of qualifying?
Was that a best lap so far for Guido van der Garde last time around?
Yes, it was.
And he's just moved up.
Through, yes.
Here he comes. He's going to have one more lap. He's going to have one more lap at this, possibly two. Possibly two. He might just get through for a second lap. And this is where that gamble on the tyres, Johnny, this is where it might pay off. Keep an eye on Guido van der Garde.
This is one of those sessions that is going to change virtually every half lap, because Olivier Pla's now gone through into third position, and he's joined almost instantaneously by Vitaly Petrov, who goes fourth fastest. So Dimitri Engelbert, blink and you'll miss it, falls from third to fifth. Guido van der Garde therefore sixth fastest, but Nicolas Lapierre is at it again because he's gone through purple through sector 1 and 2 and cuts it. Now why is that? Because he was on a flyer.
He was catching the car ahead and had a huge amount of wheel spin coming out of Gancho into 10. That's 9 into 10 and then down through the S's, and he backed away from the car ahead. He's looking for one more lap. He knows he's got one more lap. Meantime, Guido van der Garde has had a little bit of traffic on that lap, and he's had to go by the 33 car of Eurasia Motorsport.
So into the hook, into Gancho, and now the uphill chicane. This is Gancho proper, followed by the S. It's so slow, frustratingly, through this left and right corner. You have to get that right though, which leads to a good lap time. Now the S is where you can start to open up the throttle a little bit more. Lapierre went through in second position, but he's quicker again through the first sector. A 21 seconds flat for sector 1.
This is crucial.
Yeah.
One more lap after this one for G-Drive.
So
Now,
Van der
will this be
Garde,
his best?
let's have a look. 146.8 to beat. Yes, it is his best. A 146.3 to take him to 4th position, behind Paul-Luc Chatin, behind Nicolas Lapierre, and behind Olivier Pla.
And he's got a relatively clear track ahead of him, Johnny, and 2.5 miles to get the extra point for pole position, which could be so important at the end of the 4 hours tomorrow.
Pla to the top of the times, though, mainly because he's gone quicker than anybody else through the final sector. So now a 145.237 is the quickest time. It is drying. Paul-Luc Chatin again up at the first sector. We need to find out how well Nicolas Lapierre is going to do, though, in the Stars and Stripes car. Here he is at Gancho Corner, wagging the tail of the Orica 05 with the Nissan engine. Vitaly Petrov improved last time around, so 3rd fastest for the BR01 of SMP Racing.
I think the last sector is drying considerably. I also think people who went out early on full wets are losing grip on those tyres because they've started to wear, even in that 10-minute session.
Now, what about Nicolas Lapierre? He goes quickest. Now, that might be pole position, a 144.146 right at the end of the session. Panis Bartis Competition, though, and progress. He's up at the first couple of sectors too.
It's going to be close.
Second for Paul-Luc Chatin, and it is incredibly close. 0.4 of a second in the end between Nicolas Lapierre and Paul-Luc Chatin, with Olivier Pla 3rd fastest.
Van der Garde is on a decent lap though. Is it going to be enough? This is the driest sector coming through the final corner. It's going to be close, Johnny. It's going to be very close indeed.
146.3 to try and get better than. Surely he'll improve. He goes 3rd. A 144.758 for Guido van der Garde in the Gibson 015S in its final race, remember, after 5 years of great service. And that decision to go on to intermediates from G-Drive Racing hasn't paid off in terms of pole position.
One more lap.
But it is a great effort nevertheless, and I think you're probably right. They were outdone by a front row start, from a front row start by perhaps an extra lap in the session. But full marks to Nicolas Lapierre and Paul-Luc Chatin, who put on a great show at the front end of the field there. A 144.146 from Lapierre, and it's another pole position for Dragon Speed. That's the 3rd of the year, John.
And what that means is neither of the front-running teams or driver sets got the extra point for pole position. So it stays at 78 in 2nd place for G-Drive Racing in the 38 car, and 92 points for our series championship leaders in the 46.
And Dragon Speed on 57 points are definitely out of it as far as the championship's concerned.
Chance
but
of 3rd, maybe?
Yes. Oh yeah, no, I'm not discounting a great result as far as the season is concerned, but I mean, mathematically, Andreas Wirth and Stefano Coletti for SMP Racing could still win this championship. I mean, they need to hope that Thierry and G-Drive don't get a finish, but nevertheless on 68 points you can still close in on 92 points.
Well, I'm sure Tracy Crone is somewhere watching at the moment, and the Crone green car sitting there in pit lane, having completed its qualifying session back on the Dunlop tyres this weekend, in 4th position for Ollie Pla. But Nico Lapierre has captured the extra point, taking Dragon Speed in 4th position, that US team, to 58 points now, just 10 points behind SMP Racing in the battle for 3rd in the championship.
All of the top 7 cars set their best lap on the final circuit, and there's an indication where it needed that the track was getting drier and drier. And what about Thierry by TDS Racing, leading the championship, coming here to Estoril for the final round? Matthias Besch only qualifying the car in 7th position.
Well, that tells me a conservative strategy. Do not bend that car. Do not give us an issue where we can't get to the grid tomorrow. Now, as it stands now, I reckon that they only have to come 5th in the race tomorrow to be sure of the championship. 5th or better will do it for TDS.
That may well have been the strategy at Thierry, but of course Matthias Besch off the track on at least 2 occasions.
Good point.
Also, the start of the outlap, where he was working out how much grip there was down at Curve 1. To be fair to Matthias, he didn't fall off again then after that exploratory lap. But there is Nicolas Lapierre.
And I think he's driving as well as he ever has done this year. splitting himself in terms of his programme between ELMS and the World Endurance Championship, where he has also been doing a great job. Yes.
Henrik Hedman, the first to congratulate him at Dragon Speed, team owner and driver. And Ben Hanley will be there very close by as well. It's a team that has kept their personnel consistent throughout.
Good to see that smile, isn't it?
Yes.
On Nico's face, Nico Lapierre.
Yes, former Works Toyota driver, of course, but a very busy man across his World Endurance Championship and European Le Mans Series commitments. And suitably getting plaudits and handshakes from
effort.
all the team. Absolutely, no, quite right too. And the next person he will be speaking to will be Charlie George down there to report from the Dragon Speed garage. So it's another pole position for season 2016. Will this be another opportunity for them to win here in Estoril? Let's hear from him.
Well, Nico, pole position number 3 for Dragon Speed, and you can see everybody's super delighted with that.
Yeah, it was a very hard qualifying. I mean, the condition out there was very tough, so we had to manage it as good as we could. And the team had a good strategy. We started on Inter tire, which was a great choice, and I was lucky enough to have a good and clear lap in the end, and we put it together. So we are very happy about this. But obviously, the most hard job is tomorrow. But we seem to have a good pace since the beginning of the week, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Inter's there as well was the right choice for the Stars and Stripes machine. Just took a little time for the Dunlops to come in. Nico biding his time, but pulling out a brilliant lap right at the end to be almost half a second ahead at the checkered flag.
Yeah, these are all the 3 classes combined, so 9 cars out front for LMP2. Dragon Speed from Panis Partis Competition, great effort from Paul-Luc Chatin. The 38G Drive racing car driven by Guido van der Garde was getting quicker and quicker, ends up 0.6 of a second off Lapierre's time. Krone Racing finishing in 4th with Olivier Pla doing a grand job. Vitaly Petrov qualifies in 5th, but Matthias Besch only good enough for 7th place for Thierry by TDS Racing. Thanks for joining us. From John Hindhoff and Johnny Palmer, it's goodbye for now. Join us for the race tomorrow.